My name's Black Eyes, and I believe you can become a better developer. And in this video, you'll be learning about a Blender to Substance Painter to Roblox Studio workflow. We will be going over how to model and export from Blender, how to import texture, then export from Substance Painter, and how to get that finished product into Roblox Studio, so you can start making professional looking games in no time. So to start, I'm just gonna model a quick little sword. Boom, this will do. Nice and simple. This is not a modeling tutorial. So here I'm just extruding out the edges to follow the blade shape. Then I just extruded those faces and brought them together to create faces. Now I add in a loop cut and adjust those to fit that inner shape of the blade. Now I'm just cleaning up some of the topology to make the shading look better. Just making sure it looks good. Now I'm going to start on the guard and the handle. Just doing some basic shapes, just a rough little block out. Now I'm doing this little bit, adding some loop cuts and arranging them around the curve. Now I'm doing this like gem part. I don't really know what it is, but it looks pretty cool. So I just extrude out, add some loop cuts, and then adjust the curve accordingly. Next I adjust the shape so it fits better. I was stuck on here for a little bit. I just extrude it out so it aligns with the blade better. Now I'm just adjusting these points, create a better looking curve. A lot of modeling is just extruding and adjusting until it looks good. Then I duplicate it and raise it, make it a little bit smaller so it fits around it. Then I start on the little ring thing. So I just bring in a cylinder, inset the faces a little bit, delete the inside one. I don't know what I was doing there, but inset it, bridge the edge loops, select the faces. I actually selected the wrong face, but I didn't notice that until I started texturing. Then I just adjust the size, the width of it so it fits better. Next, I'm going to start on the details of the guard bit. Just inset the face, make sure it looks fine. Adjust the width a little bit, give it a little curve, so that looks good. Then I tried insetting these faces. I struggled with this a little bit, I'm not quite sure why. So I had to adjust the vertices manually, but you know, that's fine. Next, I start on the actual handle bit. Just extruding random parts, insetting them a little bit to make it a little more interesting to look at. Then I just add in a cube, add some loop cuts, extrude a little bit, adjust it for these weird little parts, and yeah, that's about it. Next is UV unwrapping. Now I have a complete tutorial on UV unwrapping that you should go watch, so I'm just gonna go quickly over this. Basically, just add seams to all of the sharp parts and where seams would logically fit. So there's not much to talk about over this part. You can select all sharp edges to make this process a little faster. Also, when you're adding UVs, it's a good time to make sure all the normals look right, and also to delete any unneeded faces so the texture just looks a little bit better. Now, to make sure the UVs look good, I just plug in a UV image. Make sure to apply the scale on all the objects. Add a couple more seams to pack in the UV. And fix any bugs that there might be. Okay, now that I have my model all done and UV unwrapped, I'm going to export FBX, select the objects, type in the name. I'll just do cool sard, then just export FBX. Alright, once you open up Substance Painter, go up to File, click New, select the FBX, make sure the template is Roblox surface appearance. Then you can leave all these the same. You can also auto unwrap if you didn't unwrap in Blender, but since I did, I'm going to leave that blank. Now just bake the material. I usually add super sampling 16x to anti-aliasing. Then when you're done, I'm just going to quickly texture this, nothing fancy. I'm just going to search for metal texture. Now since this brushed is the wrong way, I'm just going to do triplanar projection, rotate that 90 degrees. I'm just gonna speed it up and talk over what I'm doing. So I just dragged on a regular old brushed metal material, and then I just put on some simple materials as placeholders. Next, I add in a little bit of edge damage manually because I like doing it manually. I think it leads to a more controlled and better look. Next, I add in some color variation from a dirt generator. Next, I go into adding some details on the curves, which is just the sharp parts basically. I add in a little bit of metal edge wear. Something you should try to do is add in some way to break up the material so it's not as uniform. The way I typically do that is adding a clouds fill layer and then setting that to the black mask. Next, I add in a gradient just to add some more uniqueness to the blade. I also think it looks pretty cool to have it lighter at the top, just to have that subtle fade. Now I add in a curvature. Now a good tip is to not use the blur on the curvature node. Instead, add in a filter and add a blur there. That way it's more uniform and fits around the edges better. It's important to note that Substance Painter is so powerful because of its ability to layer different things. Make sure you take that into account when you're making your textures. Now I add in some detailed scratches. Let's add some good variation, add some more character to the blade. Then I move on to the handle. It's just wrapping some leather around it, create a cool little effect. Also, I'm skipping over the guard and the gem part because I basically got lazy and just copied the blade texture over and changed a couple things. So you don't really need to see that. But for the handle, just darken up the leather, add in a little dirt generator, add some grunge to it because grunge always looks pretty nice. Then I'm gonna add in some scratches, so I put in a light material. Then I put in a generator in the mask, set that to scratches, actually a fill layer, not a generator, and then just tweak it, add some height to it so it looks 3D. Then I tweak some more things, add some color variation, make sure it just gets a little more detail. Then yeah, that's my process. Okay, once the texture's finished, what I tend to do is just name it right here, name it sword or something. And then once you do that, just go to File, Export Textures, make sure all of these are checked, and then just export. Then you can go back into Blender, open up your sword model, then go into shading, delete that, and then you can press Ctrl-Shift-T, find your textures, all 4 of them, and paste them in like that. Now you have your textured sword. Now to get it into Roblox Studio, what I typically do is just export FBX, selected images, then export FBX. Now it's time to go into Roblox Studio. Let's open up a new experience. What I typically do is go into File, Import, select the sword, and you can see it here, make sure everything looks good. These are all the parts. You can also merge these in Blender if you want it to just be one object, and then just import. There's a pretty good chance that the sword will be massive. If that happens, you can scale it down in Blender, or you can just scale it down in Studio if you don't mind. But yeah, and here it is in all of its glory. Here's another tip: if the textures look weird or the metal looks weird, it's probably because you have the environment specular set to 0. So if you increase this to 1, you'll get nice looking reflections on it. So yeah, there's just a little tip for ya. Also, if the textures don't load with the model, like you don't get a surface appearance on one of the objects, and the sword just looks blank like this, what you can do is just add in a surface appearance, then plug in all the texture maps that you exported from Substance Painter. You can do it just by going into surface appearance, add image, choose file, find where you exported, type in the name, and then just plug the color map into the color map, the metalness into the metalness map, and so on and so forth. Then once you import all of these, if all of these objects use the same texture, you can just copy the surface appearance and paste into selected, then everything else will be textured. If you have any questions or possible video ideas, please comment them below. Anyways, goodbye now.